Stanley mumbled, his voice muffled by his hand. They're redecorating, aren't they? I already redecorated 3 years ago. Styles change, Stanley, Jonna said, not looking up from her hammering. Is your tooth still bothering you? Agony, Stanley groaned. The doctor said I was in perfect shape. But what does he know? He doesn't have a tooth that feels like a jackhammer is hitting it. He's probably out playing golf with my dental copay. Stanley's eyes wandered to Jack, who was still kneeling by the couch with a mouthful of tacks. What's the matter with him? Did he have a stroke? He's an upholsterer, Mr. Roper, Chrissy said proudly. He's very dedicated. Stanley snorted. He's very strange. Look, if you're gonna keep hammering, do it quietly. My pain is sensitive to loud vibrations. He turned to leave, but stopped at the door. And tell Tinkerbell there to watch out. I saw a peeping Tom last night looking in 107. If I catch him, I'll give him something to peep at. 107. Jack spat the tacks out into his hand. That's the blonde. That's a tragedy. Yeah. Well, keep your doors locked, Stanley warned. And your mouths shut, especially if they're full of hardware. Chapter 9, The Tooth of the Matter. By the time evening rolled around, Stanley's toothache had reached legendary proportions. He was pacing the hallway of apartment 101, much to Helen's annoyance. Stanley, go to the dentist. He said he can take you right now. Helen pleaded, adjusting her newest, loudest caftan. No, I don't trust him. Last time I went, he gave me a lollipop that broke my other tooth. Stanley cried, give me a brandy. That's the only medicine a man needs. They ended up at the Rendezvous pub, Stanley holding a glass of brandy against his cheek, while Helen looked around for someone interesting to talk to. The roommates were there too, hiding out from the wallpaper war that had erupted when Jonna realized the new floral pattern didn't match the newly upholstered couch. Look at him, Jack whispered to the girls. He looks like he's trying to hatch an egg with his jaw. Suddenly, the Kong of the previous week, the giant bully who had been scared off by Jack's steel plate story, walked in. The pub went silent. He looked around, his eyes landing on Jack. Jack froze, his beer halfway to his mouth. Oh no, not again. But the giant didn't look angry. He looked terrified. He approached their table, walking with a strange, gingerly step. Hey, man, the giant said, his voice unusually soft. I heard about the plate and the grapefruit spoon. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about the other night. No hard feelings. Jack, sensing a shift in the power dynamic, straightened his back. Well, apology accepted. Just don't let it happen again. I'm feeling a little twitchy tonight. Stanley, watching from the bar, was confused. What's going on? Why is that mountain apologizing to the kid? He's a hero, Stanley, Helen said, winking at Johnny. He's got a steel plate in his head, very dangerous. Stanley looked at Jack, then back at his brandy. A steel plate. No wonder he's so weird. I probably have one too. That's why my tooth hurts." The evening ended with a surprising twist. Stanley, emboldened by the brandy and the sight of a bully retreating, decided to protect the pub. He walked up to the giant, who was now peacefully eating a sandwich. "Hey, you, watch where you put your elbows," Stanley shouted, his voice cracking with artificial bravery. The giant looked at Stanley, who barely reached his navel, then at Jack, who was frantically making crazy gestures behind Stanley's back. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean anything," the giant said, picking up his sandwich and moving to a far corner. Stanley turned to Helen, a triumphant grin on his face. "See? I still got it." Stood up to him eyeball to navel. He was shaking. Helen, shaking. He was trying to control his laughter. Stanley, Helen sighed. "Now come on. Let's go home before you try to fight a jukebox." As they walked back to the building, the marine layer fog settled back over the street. The 1970s rolled on a decade of tight pants, questionable decor, and the undeniable bond of three roommates and their eccentric landlords. The end. Three's Company, The Santa Monica Chronicles. Book 1, The Unwilling Romeo. Chapter 1, The Midnight Manicure. The Santa Monica night was usually a symphony of distant ocean waves and the occasional roar of a souped-up engine cruising down the Pacific Coast Highway. But inside the ground-floor apartment of Stanley and Helen Roper, the atmosphere was considerably less tranquil. It sounded more like a construction site. Scritch! Scratch! Scritch! Snap! Stanley Roper shot straight up in bed, his floral-patterned pajamas clinging to his damp skin. He glared through the darkness at his wife. Helen was perched on the edge of her vanity stool, illuminated by a harsh, singular reading lamp, violently dragging an emery board across her fingernails. "Be quiet, Helen," Stanley grumbled, his voice thick with sleep and irritation. "You're gonna wake Karen." Helen didn't even look up. The curlers in her hair bounced slightly as she continued her aggressive grooming. "Filing my nails is gonna wake up your knees?" "It's not the filing," Stanley retorted, throwing the covers off his legs. "It's the breaking. Every time you break a nail, you swear loud enough to wake the dead. And believe me, at this hour, I qualify." Helen sighed, finally setting the nail file down. "Oh, so that's what got you up. I thought maybe it was a sudden surge of romantic passion. My mistake." Stanley ignored the jab, a survival tactic he had perfected over to decades of marriage. "Just hold it down, will you? I mean, the poor girl flew in from New York today and she's dead tired. You've heard of jet lag, haven't you?" Helen turned to face him, crossing her arms over her sensible nightgown. "Heard of it. Stanley, I married it. She's trying to adjust to a new time zone," Stanley insisted, pointing a finger toward the guest room down the hall. "She's trying to adjust to living the life of a nun," Helen shot back. "What kind of vacation is this for a beautiful young girl? You never let her out of your sight. You're hovering over her like a prison guard. You're more like her jailer than her uncle. That's ridiculous. Stanley scoffed, puffing out his chest. She's having a good time.